Now, you know, Baby Lock makes the world's best serger and the world's best easy-to-thread serger with no tensions. And we've always kind of joked about it and said, what could they possibly do to improve their sergers? And truly couldn't think of a thing. The old top of the line was called the Evolve. The new top of the line, we've evolved now into the Evolution. Again, what could they do? Well, they made it easier to thread. They made it better in so many little small ways. But let me first just back up a bit and talk to you about what the Evolution does as a serger. It is an 8-thread serger. So why do you need 8 threads? Well, you can do a whole lot of things with 8 threads. Let me show you. There will be times that you're going to be sewing where you want a super secure seam and an overlock. With an 8-valve Evolution, you can sew up to 3 lines of reinforced straight stitching followed by an overlock stitch all in one go. You can also sew just a single reinforced straight stitch with an overlocked edge. Again, in one go, not 2. With this same machine, you can sew what we call the cover hem. Now, the cover hem is that 2 lines of straight stitch sewing that you see on the bottom of shirts and things, and the back side is overlocked. So it's all done in one go. You don't have to go to a twin needle. Now, on the back side of this piece of denim, I put a decorative thread just so that you could see what the back looks like. Now, keeping that in mind, you could also sew on the wrong side of a piece of fabric with a decorative thread in your looper and create a great looking top stitch. So by using the cover hem reinforced stitch side of the machine, you can take care of 2 nasty jobs in one big go. What else can I do with my 8-thread Evolution? Of course, we can do rolled hems. This is a napkin edge rolled hem finish that we can do, and pretty much all sergers do this. We can do the narrow hem version or the rolled hem version. What else can I do with 8 threads? You can do serger crochet on a Baby Lock Evolution because the loopers never get tangled, ever, never, ever. I can sew on thin air. Here's one example, and I just used serger thread for this example. Let me show you something different. This is a little scarf I put together. Now on this scarf, just a sliver of polyester sheer, and I put in, let's see, this was a Pearl Crown Rayon by YLI, and I created this whole effect was done on the serger. The trim was made on the serger, and it was attached at the same time. Okay, what else can I do on this serger? Well, this is another quick example using the same technique with a different thread. This is a jean stitch thread by YLI. A little bit wider edge, just made a little round table centerpiece. So this is serger crochet. We can do it on the Evolution because we never get jammed up. What else can I do on an 8-thread serger? How about the wave stitch? This is some examples of the wave stitch. I put a little bit of wave edge on this wool scarf. I had some black napkins, and there's a little wave stitch on the black napkins. I use 2 spools of thread. I use a contrast. Typically, I will match one of the colors of the thread to the fabric itself, and that in this case was the black. Then I'll use a contrast. So where the black is, you don't happen to see that thread. You see a dip or a wave in the fabric. This is another example of a wave stitch, and this is another example of a wave stitch. Now let me just pull over this little cute little apron. Aprons are all the rage right now. So if you look at this apron, again, all the things that we can do on our 8-thread serger, we can create the wave edge. We can gather and insert the gather to a flat piece of fabric in one motion when we have the shearing foot. We can do what we call serger pin tucks down the front. With an optional presser foot, I can make my own piping. I don't buy piping anymore. I make it on my serger. This is called puffing. So I actually made a strip of fabric. I cut a strip of fabric, gathered both sides of it, and then I inserted it down the center of the fabric that then became my apron. Now, as a matter of fact, this apron was completely made on a Baby Lock serger. There is no sewing machine work here. There is no hand work here. Everything I did was on a serger. The Evolution is quite a serger. It does so much for you. What it also does for you, it's easy to thread. Let me show you how. To thread this serger, now I'm going to thread the loopers because they're always the hardest of a serger to thread. We have 3 loopers on this serger, so just open the door, open the small door. I'm going to put the machine into threading mode, and I do that by just pushing down a lever real lightly, and I'm going to turn the balance wheel towards me, 1 revolution, and the machine locks into threading mode. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread. Now I have the upper looper thread, the lower looper thread, and the chain looper thread. Each thread has its own little port, and they're labeled. So I'm going to stick just the tip of the thread into each port. So there's my upper looper port. Let's get into my lower looper. I know this sounds like it's an awful lot of stuff, but really it's quite easy. And if you've ever serged on a different brand, you know what I mean. I'll thread the next port. This is the port for the lower looper. By the way, with the Baby Lock serger, we can thread in any order. We can thread these ports in any order. And that's not true of standard everyday sergers. It makes it really easy if you happen to break a thread, or if you are just going to introduce a new kind of thread. You don't have to pull everything out and rethread everything from the get-go. It's another convenient feature that Baby Lock has always offered. Okay, all of my threads are in place. I simply push the button to thread, and we're threaded.